To the September 28th Social Circle Planning Commission. We'll begin tonight's meeting. We do have a quorum. For the record, for the roll call, we'll start with Valerie. If you'll please state you're here.
I'm here.
Adolphus.
Here.
Jay.
Here.
Signora.
Here.
Okay. So we do have a quorum. All of us had an opportunity to review the minutes from the July 27th meeting. Anyone note any errors or omissions that need to be corrected? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as posted.
I motion that we accept the minutes as posted.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as posted. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. First item on the agenda is a public hearing. It is rezoning with conditional use for Brookstone Office Park. Ms. Barber, would you like to introduce this for us, please?
Yes, Chairman. Good evening, everyone. We have a rezone for Brookstone Office Park, and this is mainly to bring the existing property into compliance with our zoning ordinance. We did amend our zoning ordinance and add the Condominium Act to our ordinance. And so they are going to ask for the rezone with a conditional use. The condominium is under conditional use. They're bringing the existing property in compliance. This is 8 buildings, 1 kiosk, and a common area. The property consists of 3.6 acres. It's owned now by Brookstone Place Condominium Association. And this is the Georgia Condominium Act. It's kind of small, sorry about that. But this is the official code of Georgia with the condominiums and how they are designed in a zoning ordinance. They met all the criteria. They have the simple title now since they own the common area in Brookstone Place Condominium Association. This is a map showing the 8 buildings. We have the big one facing North Cherokee, and then the street is Brookstone Drive. And then these buildings here, when they were designed, it was supposed to be bought, and the association should have been set up back then. That was not the case, and so now we're going back and correcting so that they are in compliance with the zoning ordinance.
Okay. Is this applicant initiated rezoning of conditional use, or is this a city initiated cleanup?
City cleanup.
Okay. Is there anyone here tonight representing the condo association?
Mr. Dance and from Farmers and Merchants Bank is here.
Sir, would you like to state anything? We'll begin with you with the public hearing.
Yes, sir. We were just trying to make sure we were in compliance and everything was good and hopefully proper for y'all. The buildings all exist, so
Yes.
it sits there now.
Okay. I don't think anyone would have been the wiser had we not caught this and updated our ordinance to include the condominium association through, or condominium use through a conditional use permit. We appreciate it, sir. Maybe other questions if you want to hang out, stay real close to the podium after we get done with the public hearing.
That'd be great. Thank you.
At this time, is there any questions the Planning Commission members have of Barbara, of what we're looking at here? Okay. At this time, we will open up the public hearing, but before we call upon the first person, I'd like to kind of go over briefly the rules and regulations of a public hearing. When introducing the public hearing, the applicant and those in favor, or the applicant will get a total of 10 minutes to speak. Those in favor will get a total of 10 minutes, not 10 minutes each. And those in opposition will likewise get a total of 10 minutes as an opportunity to speak on any item that requires a public hearing. Upon closing the public hearing, the Planning Commission may ask the applicant additional questions. I ask that anybody here that may be opposed to an item, please do not speak out of turn, do not outburst. Please be respectful of the speakers at the podium and the Planning Commission. Other than that, we'll move forward, and I'll call on anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this rezoning request with a conditional use permit for the condominium. All right. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any questions of the Planning Commission members? All right. No questions, no discussion. The chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezone with the conditional use.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the rezone of Brookstone Office Park with the conditional use for condominium.
I second.
And a second, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a variance request for lot 148, address of 1254 Morrow Drive. This is in the Windsong subdivision. I think Barbara did a good job outlining the variance request of what's being requested. Barbara, would you like to introduce that for us? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Excuse me. Yes, sir. We have a parcel, NS 07B148, and it's 1254 Morrow Drive. This subdivision was finalized years ago. The applicant is required under the R15 zoning to build an 1,800 square foot home. And the rear setback in today's ordinance is 20 feet, and this property has a 25-foot stream buffer. So the applicant owner is requesting to have the front setback variance of a difference of 8.75 feet. Normally, the front setback is 35 feet, is our standard setback, and he's wishing to make this 26.25 on the front setback so that you can see that this is the lot and this is the house positioned on this lot. This is the 25-foot stream buffer in the back and then the 20-foot setback. So he had to bring the house a little forward to make the 1,800 square feet and still be within the building lot lines, but with the front setback being at 26.25.
Barbara, was there a similar variance issued for the lot next door, lot 147? Do you recall?
I do not recall on that
Okay.
one. It hasn't been lately.
No, it was a home that was built some years ago. Like you said, the plat was recorded in 2007. The house was probably built a little bit after that, and it just looks, looking at it, it looks like it's closer than 30 feet, so.
Well, there is one we looked at where the deck looks like it's over in the setbacks in the back. That may be the lot you're talking about. They do have some more lots that are in question that they'll probably be bringing to us. You know, in the Town Park subdivision, when we approved the house plans, we had to go back because one house plan would not fit on every lot. So we gave a blanket variance that if we needed to come forward a foot on each side to make that house fit. This is maybe the same thing. This stream in the back of Windsong really cuts into these small lots, and it also goes downhill. So you've got a very minimum space for the backyard, and accessory structures cannot be put in the side yard unless they get a variance and a hardship on the land. So some of these right here in this cul-de-sac in Windsong do have some issues with that stream buffer of meeting today's setbacks. When the plat was done, it was only 15 feet on the back. We updated the ordinance, and it's 20 feet on the back now and 15 on the side. So that makes a difference as well.
Okay. How many lots do you think are still there that may be in a similar situation that they would need, or someone, maybe not this particular applicant, but someone would need relief?
5. I did receive a letter after the deadline for the application for the variance, and they did write a letter saying that because of these setbacks, they were probably going to need to, and they wanted to see if they could just have an administrative variance on lot 119, 130, 133, 135, 144. Those are going to be the ones in question that's going to be really hard to get the 1,800 square foot house and meet the setbacks due to this creek.
Okay.
But we only had the one lot, they only applied for the one lot at the time. I think they did not realize
There was others
it's going to
that were
be
in a similar
others that they're going
situation.
to have too. Right.
Okay. And our ordinance doesn't have any provisions for administrative relief.
No, sir,
Okay.
that's not.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's circle back on that. We'll move forward. Is the applicant here that would like to speak for this?
Mr. Moss is here if he'd like to come forward.
Okay. If you'll state your name for the record, and I'll
Yes,
go ahead and
sir.
start your 10 minutes.
All right, my name is Logan Moss. I work for the builder out there. Yeah, so this thing was obviously designed a long time ago, and the developer probably would have designed it a different way if he was, pertaining to future code. But we were kind of working off the old code, which with this setback, it'll just allow a much easier option for us to build that 1,800 square foot option that y'all do require within your code. So we greatly appreciate it if y'all could kind of work with us on that and help us there, but kind of up to y'all. So.
Okay. Any questions from Mr. Moss? No. Thank you, Mr. Moss. There is some time for rebuttal should you need it. I'm not seeing that you may, but you do have time in case you need to have some rebuttal. Thank you. Does anyone like to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone like to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any thoughts, discussions of the Planning Commission? I mean, it appears that it meets all the criteria for variance due to the topographical hardship and size, given the required stream buffer that's in the back, requiring the house to be pushed forward.
It's only 8 feet. It's not like it's all the way to the curb.
That's right. It's 8.75 foot reduction on the front setback. You have houses that appeared to me, the house next door was closer than 30 feet. I could be wrong. I was just trying to eyeball it, but if we'd like to address this at this time, Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve the variance on the front setback.
Okay. We have a motion to approve have a motion and a second to approve a front setback, a reduction of 8.75 feet for lot 148, otherwise known as 1254 Morrow Drive in the Windsong subdivision. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. That motion passes unanimously. Right quick, while we are in a similar discussion, something to keep in mind, Barbara brought up that we would potentially be facing more. And this may be a situation that you have remnant lots like this that were remnant on purpose because they were tough to build on, and some lucky builder buys them for a great deal and goes through the trouble to try to build on them. If the Planning Commission would be so inclined, I would like to add a 5th item of new business, or I guess I'd be 1 item of new business posted on the published agenda to address potential looking at administrative relief for this and maybe other situations in the future. If that's something that this Planning Commission would like to take up tonight, I'd like to add it as new business. If not, we can ask to consider it next month. That would take a motion in a second if you want to discuss it tonight to amend the agenda.
I'm going to motion that we amend the agenda and discuss administratively for Windsong.
Okay, so that would be 1 item under new business. We have a second? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. So moving on to 3rd item for public hearing is a Connor Springs subdivision preliminary plat review. Barbara, would you like to introduce this for us?
Yes, sir. We have Connor Springs subdivision, and the address is listed as 353 Spring Street. The applicant has applied for a rezone and sketch plan review back in July, and it went before the mayor and council in August, and the council approved the rezone from AG agricultural to R&D medium residential single-family homes. All conditions by the ordinance, but removing the requirement of a 15-foot buffer and replacing with a privacy fence, and adding this extension to the sidewalk for Kane to Cannon. Now, the privacy fence would be at the back of Chestnut, behind those homes, and it would have a privacy fence instead of just a 15-foot buffer. They did remove that from the conditions.
Okay.
Okay. This is a site plan showing the parcel, the 353 Spring Street. It is off Spring Street. It consists of 46.9 acres. Now, I've changed the slide from last time. This is now zoned R&D, and you'll see that there's lots of property around here that is zoned R&D. The lower one is zoned ag, going down Cannon. This is our comprehensive plan. This is a neighborhood character area, so this is the site here. This does meet our comprehensive plan. This is the preliminary plan. This has the several concerns that the fire chief had. We've addressed the 26 wide streets. They're going to loop the water system. It's going to have the second entrance here on Kane, and then it will have the sidewalk going all the way from that street to Cannon, with a couple of parallel parking areas right there. This is going to be done in phases, and I'll show you that in just a second. There we go. This is phase one. It's going to be 26 lots here on this end here with the yellow. Phase two is going to be, the purple is phase one in the middle. And then this is phase two. And once they get past the 30 lots, they've got to have the second entrance completed. And then this is phase three, will be the remaining 49 lots. Connor Springs, we have an ordinance now. It's Ordinance 2021-9. And this ordinance is an exhibit that has already been approved by the mayor and council in August when they approved the rezone. And it has those conditions as the ordinance of this subdivision. In our subdivision ordinance, when we come before the preliminary plan, the developer can ask to build 2 model homes at this time. So once they get the infrastructure in, we get the construction plans, we still have quite a few steps to go after the preliminary with the utility plan, the construction plans, the bond.
Does it require a final plat recorded before
It does not require it to be recorded before. We can make sure all the infrastructure's in and that we are willing to accept before we sign the final plat. But the 2 models, and I brought that subdivision because they can build, like this is in phase 1 and this is in phase 2, and they'd like to build 2 model homes from the very beginning. And that has to be approved through this preliminary process to be able to let them do it. I tried reading some of it back again to make sure I understood it myself. I have never had anybody ask to build the 2 model homes under the preliminary. We usually, the last one we did the preliminary plan, and then we did a final plat with the addresses, brought that to council. That doesn't have to come before the planning commission on the final plat. It just has to be the same as the preliminary plat, but with the addresses attached. This is a sample of the lot with the house drawn on the lot with an accessory structure drawn in the back, so that the lot is bigger than the regular R&D zoning. They increased the lot size to 10,000 square feet instead of 6,000. So the lots will be a little bigger, and at least big enough so that they can have a storage building in the backyard. Also, this is supposed to be where they can park 4 cars here, or have a little bit of area to be able to park on the side right here, and maybe hopefully not park in the street. This is a sample. Jericho is one sample of the home that they would build. And this is the Tucker.
Barbara, remind me, there were other conditions of zoning, is that correct? And that the applicant actually proposed, so there was a substantial list. Please, you don't have to go over, I just want to be reminded that there was a substantial list of conditions that the applicant proposed and was discussed throughout.
Yeah.
So
Yes, there
Okay.
was. We have all of the conditions that the planning commission recommended. The council approved it, And we do have this signed off August the 17th in Exhibit A with the conditions, and there is 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of conditions that is in the ordinance now, and that was the ordinance 2021, number 9.
Okay. And out of the reviewing departments, those that review these preliminary plats on behalf of the city utilities, fire, police, the city engineer, all those reviewers have given approval of the preliminary to move forward to construction plans, is that correct?
Yes, fire chief was happy with the width of the roads, 26 feet, so he had a list of things that he needed worked out. They did get worked out before the preliminary plan was turned in. And our engineer said this was a preliminary plan, so he didn't have any comments at this time. He made
Okay.
the comments on the sketch plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we have so much information that is on the sketch plan.
Yeah.
He's already made all the comments until we get to the construction plans
Sure.
and the utility plans.
Okay. I did note one item in here that you included, that the wastewater superintendent stated that they're under the assumption the developer will reroute the existing 8-inch sewer line to the property. If so, that section of pipe should be upsized to handle the current flows from downtown area plus the new flow of the subdivision lots, 5,985. Is that 5,985 feet that they'd have to extend it, or is that a number that should be gallons per minute that the pipe should hold?
I think
That's a lot of gallons or so.
Referring to, let me make sure what we got. That might have been on a separate sheet, Chairman. I'm looking to find where we had that.
It was on the second sheet of the staff analysis that you put together for us.
Chairman, I think that's
A typo? Okay.
The only thing the superintendent said was he wanted to make sure when they did reroute that existing line.
Yes, ma'am.
Because of the flow that comes from town all the way down to Spring Street.
Yes, ma'am.
It would have to be increased to a bigger size to handle the
Okay.
upstream flow down, and then also their subdivision. Because they are asking to reroute that sewer line because they want to build a few homes.
That's right, that lots 1 through 5, is that what I recall?
These right in here, there's a sewer line coming right through here.
Okay.
They're going to have to
Reroute
it
that.
down Spring Street and come down through here. But the only increase in size is right here from the plan
Yes, ma'am.
that they have.
Okay.
It's this section right here.
Okay. But any other questions of Barbara at this time? If not, we'll open up the public hearing. Your show, sir.
All right. Good evening, my name is Kevin Seifert with the Pacific Group, and we're the applicant for this preliminary plat. As Barbara's mentioned, both our rezoning and our sketch plat were approved back in August by the mayor and council, of which were both recommended for approval by this board. Upon our preliminary plat submittal, we did receive a few comments, and we have addressed all those comments. So tonight, we're just here before you asking to vote to recommend approval of this preliminary plat because we are in substantial compliance with the city's code of ordinances and have addressed all of staff's comments regarding the submittal. And then we'd also just like to ask that you recommend approval of the 2 model home lots as depicted on the exhibit that we also submitted. And other than that, we're just, happy to answer any questions you may have for us.
I would like to ask a couple questions.
Yeah.
The sewer line, rerouting of the line and the upsizing, is that something that you were prepared to do? I know we talked in the sketch plan about rerouting, but increasing the size of that line, is that something that you guys are prepared to do?
If it's as Barbara indicated, just in that section where we reroute, I think we're willing to agree to that.
Okay.
Yep.
Barbara, does there need to be any clarification on that with the wastewater?
I think we need to make sure it's got to, with the sewer superintendent, he said it's just gotta go this many lots right in here
Yeah.
when it gets rerouted. He did not give me a footage of how many feet that would be, because he didn't.
But I think we're open to any rerouting.
Yes.
Right.
We
well,
understand we would be,
in the rerouting,
the reroute.
right, we understand.
is where
Part
we
of
would
your
have to
project.
upsize.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And what I don't want to get in a situation when you guys are getting ready for construction is your construction plans say an 8-inch line, and our city engineer and wastewater superintendent are saying, no, it needs to be a 12-inch line. And I don't want to get into a situation where the city's having to pay for a 12-inch line when you're rerouting it and you go and put the 12-inch line in the ground. That's all. As long as we are understanding that any improvement for the reroute, any improvement in size, you guys are comfortable paying for.
For any portion that we reroute, yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
The other question, the request for the 2 model homes is rather new to us. And as Barbara indicated, we've not had that requested at a preliminary stage. Model homes usually come at the final plat when the road base and top are down, all infrastructure's in the ground, addresses are issued, so you have 911 that has the points of the address points, you have utilities, so on and so forth. Please explain to us, educate us when you are anticipating to try to go vertical for houses.
So it's also new to us. It's not common for us to ask for that at this stage either. Our understanding of the way the ordinance is written is that we need to go before both Planning Commission and Mayor and Council to get those model homes approved. And I think this is the last time we're going to see you before the final plat.
You won't see us at the final plat, sir.
Or even, yeah, that's what I mean. This is the last time even, and we won't see you on the
Yeah.
final plat. We wouldn't plan to start those homes until we had an all-weather road surface, which would be binder down, and water. Like water at least past chlorination and pressure.
Yeah.
So honestly, we try to get model home permits and model homes started while we're working through the final plat approval process, but we have all the infrastructure in the ground.
All right. Yeah.
And so I think we're just doing this as a precaution to make sure we've met the requirements of the ordinance so that when we do ask for, I guess this gives us the approval to do it, but we would do it at that stage. Which I think is more common to what you probably see in other,
Right. Thinking through the development process, I don't want to be putting in sewer line and your framers out there framing a building.
there's been a time, I'm familiar with the prairie building is a term that has been used historically.
Yeah.
We're not looking to go start these homes
Okay.
while we're working on infrastructure.
All right, all right.
We do want to start them as soon as we have the road down and the water is passed
Okay.
inspection, which may be a little bit before the plat actually gets approved and recorded.
Right. Because typical phasing of construction after you have clearing and grading is your stormwater, water and sewer infrastructure,
Absolutely.
and your road grade, your GAB, your binder. So that's for my clarification. When you were looking to start, so I would probably condition that to starting.
And we're fine if it's
model home
conditioned.
when you submit.
When you have a road, yeah.
Yeah, when you submit your final plat, when you have your binder.
We'd be fine with that condition, that
Yeah.
we can start model homes once we've submitted the final plat.
Okay, that gives me some comfort and relief.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions of the applicant at this time?
So I'm understanding that lot 110 and lot 33 would be the model home site?
Yes.
Okay, so one of those is in phase 1 and one of them appears to be in phase 2.
So, and again, through the process of making sure in all these steps, we're working with the city. We anticipate we'll probably build phase 1 and phase 2 rapidly, one after another. And again, it's just being ahead of the requirement to get the approval to build the model homes. It's possible that phase 1 and phase 2, we could submit a final plat at once, but we've been this far and we want to maintain the ability to do phase one, then do phase two, but it's a chance we would do both at once. And it's the same thing. We wouldn't ask for that, or we would be happy to be conditioned for the second phase model lot upon the submittal of that final plat, regardless of if it happens simultaneously with one or after.
And chances are, you'll probably end up having really to build 1 and 2 concurrently, because you're looking at water and sewer connectivity, circulation, you got power that runs through there in the right of ways, all that has to be improved, ready to go. So trying to break it up in 1 and 2, it may run concurrently, or you may decide you're doing it all at once.
While there's some benefits to trying to do phase one only for time, we've recognized through this process that there's probably going to be a lot of things that are going to force us into just doing both at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is possible that phase one would be complete and then you just have like lot 33 with a house on it hanging out there.
No, because if y'all were to recommend approval conditioned on that we cannot start a model home until that lot has had a final plat submitted, I don't think it would be possible. I think we would be, it would solve that concern.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions of the applicant? Okay. You've got 9 minutes for rebuttal should you need it.
Okay.
At this time, is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this preliminary plat approval? Is there anyone like to speak in opposition of this preliminary plat approval? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Kevin, I don't think you want to talk for 9 more minutes, right?
I'm good.
Okay. Is there any other discussion that the commission would like to have regarding this preliminary plat? If not, Chair will entertain a motion, and I would request that a motion be made, should you decide to request such, to include that condition that no model home permits can be submitted until the final plats are submitted for city review.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve this sketch plan that we have with the conditions that no model homes will be built until final plat has been approved for that lot.
And just for clarification, Jay, that was to approve the preliminary plan?
Yes.
Okay.
And then again, conditions on the 2 model home lots not being approved until the final plat's been submitted and approved.
Anyone want to second that?
Is that just submitted?
And approved.
The preliminary plat, or the final plat has to be approved first before the,
Isn't that what we're saying?
no, that when he submits the
Yeah.
final plat to the city to start the review process,
Yes.
then
I just misspoke.
he can apply for the model home.
Yes.
Okay. So for clarification, Jay, your motion was to approve the preliminary plat for Connor Springs subdivision, condition 2, that the 2 model home permit applications cannot be submitted until the final plat is submitted to the city for review.
That is correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay. The motion passed unanimously. Thank you. So folks that are here wondering the next process, the next step is in the subdivision process is now the applicant will submit the construction plans to the city for review, and once approved, then the permit will get issued for construction on the infrastructure to begin. All right, we have a public hearing for RS 21004, it's Alcova Drive rezoning from AG to R15 with a 30 lot sketch plan review is with it. Barbara, would you introduce this for us, please?
Yes, Chairman. Reliant Homes is the
applicant for the owner of Wolf Properties. This is parcel ID SC020001. And this is, like I said, for the owners of Wolf Investments. The property is currently zoned agricultural AG. The application is to rezone the property to residential medium single-family district R15. The property to the south is zoned AG. The property to the north is zoned R15. The property to the east is zoned AG. property, which is agricultural, and to the west is zoned R25. And that would be across from this property is the school and the Stevens Park, Veterans Park, excuse me. R15 zoning requires a minimum lot area of 15,000 square feet. Minimum dwelling unit size is 1,800 square feet. The setbacks are 35 feet on the front in the interior roads, 15 on the side and 20 on the rear. The smallest lot in this proposal is 1.3 acres, and the largest acreage is the back lot, which is 55.1 acres. This is the site. This is our future land use map. You can see that it is colored in the yellow, which is neighborhood character area. So it fits our future land use plan. This is just another picture of the site off the GIS. This is 100 acres total. This is the front street. We'll have 2 pages of the one in the back. This is the lots in the front. That actually goes, I think the back one is number 25, I think. This is the back lot, which is 55 acres. This is the
Lot
little...
18.
19?
Lot 18.
Lot 18. This is the road on the street that goes into this 55 acres. And this would be the cul-de-sac here, ending at the back of here. So this would be the street, because our ordinance requires you have more than one access point if you go over 30 lots. So the applicant did bring this to us to get a variance. He went back to the Planning Commission, and then he has resubmitted this sketch plan and a rezone to do R15 with the 30 lots and not do over the 30 lots. One of the requirements is the water line to be looped. They are trying to work on that. I don't think we have an answer to that yet, but if we go right in here to get an easement to loop it in Laurel Oaks, and that way it would be looped is what we require. The other thing the gas line would to be looped on there so we wouldn't have to bore across the road. And that is pretty much it, the R15 zoning. Like I said, on our future land use map, you have all of this Laurel Oaks right here is zoned R15. The PUD is the Jubilee, which that's a plan unit development. And then right here is the R25 zoning. And the property next door right here is zoned agricultural, which is, if somebody developed that, it would be 5 acres per lot. And on the sketch plan review, they have included most everything. There was a couple of things that we didn't have, but most everything we did have is to show a proposed layout of the building locations with the driveway and the parking lot. That is not included. To show the proposed curb cuts of existing driveways and roadway. Shows the road being cut right there because the chief did want the radius at Alcova to be a little wider. But I think he talked to him and they agreed on what is on this plan, on the sketch plan. The city, we have a notarized form from the owners giving the Reliant Homes the permission to present this rezoning sketch plan for the development. That's included. Do not have any citations or existing legal right-of-ways or easements affecting this property. I don't have any of that as of yet.
So an ALTA survey hadn't been completed? An ALTA survey hadn't been completed?
I don't have one.
Okay.
This is all we got with this one, where they, did the sketch drawing on it, but not the actual survey. Now, if Ned and them have one, or Mr. Butler have one, I'm not sure. I don't have a copy of that. The location of the flood hazard areas, our engineer said at this time there was nothing recorded on this property. And he didn't have any concerns as long as the water line could be looped.
Barbara, let me ask you about that. I noted in your staff report that the water department stated that for a future request would be to get more detailed plans to come as we need to see how many how many and where isolation valves will be located, and that the water main and water line should be looped. Could we move forward tonight in a positive manner, and that the plan to loop the water system and loop the gas come at the preliminary plat stage?
We could, we've just got to work on, they have to work on trying to get
Some
permission
direction.
to go in there, but then the city has some resources that I had asked about today, but I'm not 100% sure on how that works. Some of this is kind of new, of making sure we get these systems looped.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, we've got dead-end lines, and we know now, we know better.
Right.
It needs to be looped. I've heard a couple things, that there's some good things about loop systems, and there could be some negative things about loop systems, but I'm trying to get a little bit more detail, because like I said, now we're requiring it's
right.
looped.
Mm-hmm.
So until they can figure out how to get it looped, you can approve the sketch plan, but we've got to have the
Right.
looped by the time the preliminary gets here.
Okay. I noticed that the plan does not indicate any kind of deceleration lane. I didn't dive into our subdivision standards. Did the city engineer note any requirement for deceleration?
No, sir, he didn't.
That's something obviously that would be called at the construction plan stage or even at the preliminary plat stage.
Well, and like I said,
And this is just a concept.
this is just a concept, because the fire chief did make a comment on his notes about the width of it. So when
Of
they
the
come
radius,
in,
right.
the radius of it. So and that was addressed.
And that's-
So on this plan, they did widen it to what the fire chief wanted,
Okay.
and it met. The fire chief sent a letter after the concerns were done, and he said all his concerns were met.
Okay.
So
At this time, are there any other questions of Barbara about the rezoning and sketch plan? If not, before I ask the applicant to come up and open the public hearing, I'd like to confirm, Chief Zadell, I think you've had some communication back and forth about this, even when the previous application for the variance came up. Has the overall kind of, thank you for coming to the podium, overall, has the concept plan satisfied the NFPA requirements for accessibility and fire service, fire protection?
Yes, sir. We, if you look back on your original notes, our comments we made, we did gave quite an extensive list of comments. I was able to talk with the builder. We addressed street width, we addressed hydrant distances, we addressed length of the street. We went back and forth between the subdivision ordinance and NFPA on the radius of the
Cul-de-sac?
cul-de-sac at the
Okay.
end. City ordinance was 50-foot radius, which make a 100-foot diameter.
Mm-hmm.
And on the fire code, it was a 96-foot diameter. So city ordinance is actually stricter, or subdivision ordinance is actually stricter. So as long as we use either or.
Okay.
But at this point, everything that we had talked to them about, we had an extensive conversation together, myself and you and the builder, and everything has been met at this point.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Fire Chief? Thank you, Chief. All right, at this time, Mr. Butler?
My name is Ned Butler. I'm representing Reliant Homes as the applicant. As been discussed, we have come back around and are representing the sketch plan and rezone to meet the ordinance of not going for a variance of in lots over 30. We really want to come in, show the city what we can do, and maybe the next one, if there's a problem, we can have a little more latitude if a variance is needed. But we really just want to come in social circle and prove ourselves. So we are requesting the R15 zoning. There will be 30 lots. There will be a 55-acre lot in the back. They will all be governed by an HOA. We are currently working on options to loop the water line. When we were taking the road all the way to the back, there was a water line tap at the back of Laurel Oaks, but it would be about 2,000 feet to run that water line and access road to work on it if ever needed, and it's not financially feasible to do that. So we've reached out to the HOA because there's some open space that we could possibly go through. The president says that I don't know how open the HOA is going to be into granting an access easement there. So we are also talking to some homeowners along that side of the road about potentially getting an easement through their side yard to be able to tie into Laurel Oaks to loop it. And we understand at this point we were going to have to do that to be able to develop the site. We have not done an ALTA survey before we were spending too much money. We wanted to see whether or not we could get a rezone. As far as a decel lane, I haven't delved into the code myself either to see what would require. We haven't done a traffic study to see what the traffic flow is, but with 30 lots, there's not going to be a lot of traffic in and out of that subdivision. We have an 1,800 square foot minimum. We're going to build our foundation series. I welcome you to go to our website, Bentley Farms. We're building that product in Loganville now. The square footage of all those homes is from about a little over 1,900 square feet up to a little over 2,600 square feet. Everything will be hardy board cement siding on the outside or shake. And we do water tables across the fronts only with a minimum of 18 inches. Depends on where the windows are, is how far we take those up. I'm trying to address any other concerns I know I've gone over with Barbara, but I'd like to save my time for any questions and any rebuttal.
Excellent. Thank you so much. You got 7 minutes, 20 seconds. All right. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this rezoning and sketch plan?
Hi, I'm George Baker. I represent the sellers, the Wolfs, and they just wanted me to reiterate that they respectfully ask for this request as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Is there any questions that the Planning Commission would like to ask Mr. Butler or discuss with him? Okay.
So you're gonna have in the back, there's gonna be 55 acres.
Yes, ma'am.
That is listed as one large lot. That's also gonna be rezoned?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And there are no current plans, or is that included as a lot that you are planning on building on?
Right now, it'd be a lot we're planning on building on. If we could acquire the property to the west of it, then we could potentially get a second access and come in for rezone. You sketch plan to make that a phase 2. We have reached out to that property owner and he's not interested in selling it. So we're landlocked at this point. So and once we develop it, build through 30 lots, we would just build on that and move on down the road.
But just a regular size lot, like when somebody bought that, they would buy all 55 acres?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Butler, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk more about the product that Reliant builds. It's a, in my opinion, which doesn't matter for much, it's a good product. Better than I think some of the tract builders that are much larger nationwide that we see often. And others of that I'm familiar with your product. Let's talk about the architectural elements that your repertoire builds. That's something that we as a planning commission have looked at quite extensively in the last couple of years when we've had rezonings, we've had sketch plans, is looked at the architecture of the structures that are going to be built, because that's what we that's what we're left with, is that built environment. You mentioned that you guys do a brick water table, 18 inches or to the bottom of the windows on the front only. Would you be acceptable to a condition of zoning that the water table would have to extend on all 4 elevations? Again, to give that that appearance, that look that we want to have for our community. So that's some of the things that when I'm thinking from trees to keys in this type of environment, I want to see something unique on every lot. I don't want to see the same home every lot. I've looked at situations, and I've worked in different places that had requirements that said subdivisions over X number of lots, you had to provide so many different elevation types. Material changes are not the same, or that doesn't satisfy the elevation types. Is that something that you guys are open to as a builder coming into our community to do?
We would ask not to do the water table on all 4 sides, just on the front. Our company policy is we don't do the same elevation 2 houses each way, across the street, 2 houses each way.
Okay.
So we have about 7 house plans. Each house plan, I think, has 3 different elevations, and with 30 lots, you probably won't see the same elevation.
Okay. I like that company policy, and that might be something that policies and companies can change, and we don't have control over that, so that might be a condition we look at, considering this body may recommend that, and council can certainly decide that the council's going to decide. So, I like to talk about some of those architectural elements, things like that. And I know on a previous case that there was a long list of agreed upon architectural elements, and I'd like to hope that Reliant would be open to those as well. I know we talked about, you said you were not agreeable to the water table 4 sides, or you're agreeable to water table on the front and the left and right elevation, not on the back, because the back is not typically seen from the public right of way. Things like that. You guys going to have an HOA? Is it going to be a covenants controlled subdivision? What are the plans for that, or is it going to just be build and let the homeowners have their own association? If they want to gather, if they want to start it, they start it, or is that something that you guys start and get rolling? How do y'all do that?
On HOAs, we set up HOA covenants on all our subdivisions. We control them until we sell the last lot, so we can control any additions of pools, outbuildings. We control that, what it looks like. We have design guidelines for each HOA that we want everything to look similar. It's got to be the same color schemes to promote uniformity throughout the neighborhood. If you want, I will go to, because I thought this may come up, I went through Connor Springs. So if we would be agreeable to these conditions. We'll do the 3-tab or architectural shingles. We do architectural shingles as standard. We do a 12-inch overhang. Not the same elevation on 2 of either side of each house, across the street 2 each way. No above ground pools, no window units. That's in our standard covenant, so that's not a problem. No vinyl siding except the soffits. That's our standard. We don't even do it in the soffits typically. Garage minimum 440 square feet. That's no problem. A minimum of an 18-inch water table on the front only. We will establish an HOA, and we don't sell to investors, but we don't limit.
Can't control that.
Limit the number of renters. We put it in the covenants that a lease has to be approved by the board, can't be longer than a year, and it can't be a short-term lease. It's got to be over 6 months and can't be longer than a year. So that way you avoid an Airbnb or something like that coming in where you got party houses on the weekend.
Okay. Most modern house plans now show the roof vents towards the back of the house. Is that how y'all's plans are as well?
That's how ours are. The only thing that does come around on the front elevation is a dryer vent on some of them, not all of them, but
Yep.
there are some
Is that on the roof or on the front facade?
on the roof
Okay.
of the front. We don't do any plumbing vents on the front, but
Okay.
there are some that you'll have a laundry vent come on the front.
Okay. So as a potential conditions, and please clarify if I misspeak, but a potential condition that Reliant would be comfortable with would be prohibition of above-ground swimming pools, prohibition of window air conditioning units. Obviously, you're not going to build a house with a window unit. You're not going to use vinyl. Do you use vinyl on your soffits or eaves?
Not typically.
Okay. Again, not knowing your full house plan book, how much glass do you think, guys, on average, you think you have? You think you have about 15% glass in the front?
Yes,
Okay, so you'd be comfortable with that condition?
yes.
Okay. Your sides and rear are the same as your front in regards to hardy plank siding, the shake, and the gables,
Yes.
things of that nature? Okay. Going back to the water table, would you do 3 sides?
I'm asking for one.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions of Mr. Butler at this time? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you say you guys control the HOA until all the homes are sold.
Yes, ma'am.
So with the parking, will people be allowed, do y'all have a law or whatever, they can't park beside the highway, the street?
Well, it'll be a public right-of-way, so there will be rules that they can't park on the street. We hire a management company that will send violation letters upon a drive-through. They do a drive-through once a month, and then you may get calls of complaints. We can govern it a little bit while we're in there building, because we have more employees in there. But I'll be honest, during the building phase, you're gonna have contractors parking along the road because they can't get into the lot as well. Long-term, we will put in the covenants that there's no parking on the street, but that being public right of way, there's only so much that HOA can do. They can't really come and tow. I don't know if they come and tow. I've never seen an HOA come and tow somebody's car off public right of way.
Okay, I understand that, so, you know, like, taking up for Christmas and Thanksgiving holidays, people, family members come in, so a short-term parking side the road, is that gonna be okay?
I'd have to go back and read our covenants exactly. I know there's no parking in the front yard. I don't know exactly how it addresses on the roadway. We did widen it to a 26-foot wide roadway, so it does give you more room to get by if there is a car parked in the street.
Okay.
Mr. Butler, please, your company policy, how did you word that? No
So-
same elevation can be built within 2 houses either side or across the street from?
2 houses either side.
Okay.
Go across the street, that house, and 2 houses on either side of that house.
Okay. Have y'all run into a problem where an agent sold the house plan on a lot and had to change?
No, we have a design center and a decorator that monitors that.
Oh, good. Any other questions of the applicant? Okay. You're welcome to have a seat.
Okay.
Any discussion on the rezoning from AG to R15 and the sketch plan for 30 lots? I think we heard that the applicant was agreeable to some conditions of zoning. somewhat stay consistent with what we're looking for with our design standards and design requirements for new homes. Any thoughts? Concerns? Anyone want to make a motion?
So far, there's no traffic study, no Alta survey or study. I mean, I know it's only 30 lots, but that area gets pretty crazy a couple of times a day during the school year. And there's no wetlands or any water we have to consider, correct?
Well, there's state waters in the form of
Right.
two tributaries, two creeks there. One, they're showing up front near their open space and detention pond area, and one back that basically transverses all of Lot 18.
But currently, there's no concerns, there's nothing.
I think, in my experience, and this is just my experience only, the time to be concerned with state waters is when the construction plans are submitted and reviewed to ensure that no disturbance is occurring in the buffers.
Because we're just zoning, right?
That's right. At this point, it's very early in the stage. This is a sketch plan that I think could probably change. I don't know if it would, but this is, sketch plan is supposed to be a concept for something for us to look at, get an idea, general consensus of what the proposal is. But the main thing is the zoning change from AG to R15. R15 is consistent with Laurel Oak, so it's abutting R15 zoning. There is one strip of 10-foot strip of land that runs between the subject property and Laurel Oaks that originally tied back into the Clegg Farm subdivision. At some time ago, 4 lots in that Clegg Farm subdivision are in the city limits, and they had to be platted in the city. The rest of those lots are in Walton County. That 10-foot strip, in my memory, is not what it used to be, but, and it tells me how long I've been here. I probably don't need to be here much longer. But the 10-foot strip that I thought was supposed to be dedicated to the city to run a water line to the back, to that Clegg Farm subdivision, but apparently that was mistaken, and that's not the case. Barbara, what is the zoning of that 10-foot strip? Is it AG as well, or is it R15?
It's AG.
Okay, so potentially on the zoning map, you'd see Laurel Oaks with R15, a 10-foot strip of AG, and then 100 acres of R15, and then AG over on the Cottle property.
Yeah.
So I think the zoning is kind of consistent with, in my opinion, consistent with the future land use map, and there's a medium density neighborhood character area. And you have R15 in the area, if not immediate area.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezone to the R15 and acceptance of this preliminary plan.
Is that a condition, or is?
With the
are you-
conditions of the architectural designs, to be agreed upon prior to any other further plans being submitted.
Okay, if you don't mind, I would like to identify what those conditions are for the record. So if that's a motion, that's seconded, and it goes for the council knows what conditions of zoning we as a body are recommending.
That's correct.
And that is that no house elevation can be built 2 lots either side of each other across the street and 2 houses from it.
Correct.
Mr. Butler, you may have to send that language to Barbara. And then no above ground swimming pools. All plumbing roof vents are to be to the rear of the house, not on the front roof line.
Correct.
No window air conditioning units. Vinyl siding is prohibited. Each house shall contain a garage with a minimum of 440 square feet. Brick water table, and I'm going to slide this in on 3 sides. We know the applicant has stated they're opposed to 3 sides, that they will do one along the front elevation. So those are the architectural conditions. Mr. Butler, was there anything that I misstated with those besides the water table?
No vinyl siding.
You wanted to say something about HOA, requirement of HOA,
Okay.
and exterior brick, stone, or cement-based siding.
Right, no vinyl siding.
Yeah, so exterior materials limited to masonry product, brick, stone, masonry siding.
Correct.
And requirement of HOA, is that correct?
Correct.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's
No,
something we've been discussing.
You need to say them. But yes, those are the conditions that I was referring to.
Okay.
Did you want to do anything on the 15% glass front? You asked me about.
I think that's pretty standard on most houses. Jay, do you want to amend it to
I
add?
mean, we might as well put it in there. So yes, the 15% glass requirement on the front of the house.
And that would be each house shall contain a minimum 15% clear glazing, windows and doors on the front elevation.
Yes.
Okay. So Nora, are you okay with those conditions? You're fogging up over there.
Well, I was just thinking, I was just looking at the thing, and, one of my concerns was all that big property that's gonna be back there.
Somebody's gonna have a real nice lot. It's gonna be steep. But the main thing is, we've got a motion with conditions. Do I hear a second? Okay, before we take a vote on it, now this is, for clarification, this is for the rezone from AG to R15 with the approval of the sketch plan and these conditions. Obviously, before it comes back before us for a preliminary, the water system, the applicant will have to figure out how he's going to loop the water system, how he's going to get gas looped. An ALTA survey will need to be done because there may be title issues, maybe easements that we don't know about at this time, and the city engineer would review it to determine if decel lane is required. I mean, all intents and purposes, this is very similar to St. Andrews across the street, where it's one lot in, you've got a number of lots feeding off each side, or a number of lots feeding off each side of the road.
Correct.
So, all that's saying, we'll call for a vote. We have a motion and a second to approve with conditions. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, okay. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Butler, the next step is this request with our recommendation goes before the city council at a public hearing very similar to this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Old business, we have the 2021-13, the housing assessment proposal. This was online. I didn't read it cover to cover, but I did thumb through it and look at some of the highlights. Barbara, would you like to go through it with us?
Sure. I'll turn this off because I did not upload that on the PowerPoint. As you know, the Planning Commission has held
Quite a few public meetings where the public was invited to come and join us and give their opinion about what Social Circle wants to see in our town. So after we hired the consultant to do the housing survey of what they would recommend, this is the policy that the housing market analysis with the policy recommendations. And what we decided when we took it to the council, they wanted it to come back to the Planning Commission for the Planning Commission to make a recommendation. Make a recommendation. Hold on just a second. Now we'll get that off. If we accept this policy as is, or do we want to do something with it, or do we not want to do something with it? Now, the policy actually noted that we do need housing, affordable housing. We do need probably apartments, but where do we need them? So they said some, like downtown with the mill, could probably be reworked and have apartments, and people could, live downtown and have a walkable community, or the property out on I-20 and 278 would be like a mixed use out there on the interstate where they would probably have shopping, homes, townhomes, apartments would all fit into that mixed use category. So this policy recommends if we send this to the council to have this as our guideline. They did a lot of, what other cities have. Other cities have the same kind of issues that the city of Social Circle has. We don't have enough affordable housing or enough apartments. People want to move here, they want to go to school here, but they can't find anywhere to live. So hopefully with the two subdivisions coming, that will help. With those two home guidelines, they'll have 1,800 square feet over here in this subdivision, maybe 18 or 19 to 2,600 over on Alcoba. So that would be homeowners, but you still have a lot of people that don't want to own a home anymore. They want the townhome or they want apartments. So this kind of addressed of where it would fit in and where the city might like to have this policy as a recommendation going forward. It's kind of like our future land use map, it's guideline to go by. It's not wrote in stone, but.
And I don't certainly want to tie us nor the council to a study recommendation that we undertook after some months. I don't want to tie our hands if we get into a situation where there's not a good plan that comes before us, and we deny that for what we're concerned with, that document is just a recommendation for housing. It's not a legal binding document.
No.
Like the zoning ordinance. So,
no, it's not. No, it's just a guideline.
I think at this stage, I know I want to take more time and review it cover to cover. I'm going to ask that my colleagues on the Planning Commission do the same. And if we are at our next meeting, whether it be October or November, come back with some talking points to have a discussion on this.
Well, that was kind of my question. I wanted to know if everybody has had a chance to read it. I put it on the agenda mainly to get anybody's comments and to go forward. Or have we not had enough time to study it? Do we need to have a work session to go over it, or?
I think for me, I think I don't want to rely on a work session to have someone come in and tell me what it says. I want to read it myself.
You want to read it, okay.
And I think let us all read it. Let us come back with our own thoughts about the content in it, and if there's anything that needs to be changed in that, or things that we may not agree with, we can flesh those out during that time. But
Okay.
I certainly, I'm just one voice. I certainly don't want to make any recommendations for or against it tonight without further understanding fully what it is.
Okay. That sounds good. Well, like I said, the deadline has actually passed for having a application for October.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't have anything because I know several of these would be working on their preliminary and working on construction plans, and that, that wouldn't come back to the Planning Commission anyway with Connor Springs. So, I don't have anything on the book, so this may give everybody a little bit more time. If we don't have an October meeting, and we could have a November meeting, but that is starting the holidays, and we have to remember that, because I think we're going to have to change the date. It falls, but I think we can have it that Tuesday night, and then Thanksgiving is that Thursday. So just making sure no one's going out of town and that we're going to have a quorum. If we have an application in October, we need to make sure about the dates. So that always kind of is a little schedule change in the holidays.
So why don't we do this? Who needs a printed copy? All right. Okay. So Barbara, can you get 2 printed copies? I'll review it electronically.
Okay.
Let us,
I can print it out if it comes to me in a PDF.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, do you want to email it to us and just print out Signora a hard copy, please, if you don't
Anybody else
mind?
need a hard copy? I'll ask Miss Florine if she needs one, ask Mike
Okay.
if they need one.
And
Okay. And it was just because it was so large, I figured if everybody could just look at it on the website, it would be easier
Well-
than, but we can print the hard copies, would be
and,
great.
I'm glad to know that we don't have new business to consider for October, because I focused more on the public hearings tonight, getting ready for it, than I did the housing study, just me personally.
We had quite a bit.
So this will give us an opportunity to review it. I think we can all get it done in a month. That's, the least we can do for the city we serve. So let's look at it for October.
November.
October. Get it.
So you want to have a meeting in October?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I won't be here for the November meeting.
Okay, so we do want to have it October. Okay.
So if we could have it in October.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Okay.
It's a couple days before Halloween. What's that? Yeah. So, okay. If everybody's good with that, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Moving back to old business, or new business, excuse me. We amended the agenda to add a discussion of administrative variances for those lot hardships in Windsong. Looking at the final plat from 2007 of Windsong, whether it's the My Homes community or another builder, they're going to have similar problems with setbacks because of topography, because of buffers. They asked for, what was the percentage that we recommended approval?
It was 8.75
8.75 feet, and it's a 30-foot.
It was 35, it's a 35-foot
35
setback,
foot.
and it's going to be 26.26 feet, 25 feet.
At 26.25 foot setback.
Now, our ordinance does say that even if it goes to a public hearing, you're not supposed to grant
More than 50%?
more than 50%
Yeah.
of that request.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to think of something that's equitable for administrative review. I know some places allow a percentage, like no more than 20% of a reduction in setback. That would, 20% of the 35 foot is 7, right? That's a 7-foot reduction. They wouldn't get, on that particular lot, they wouldn't get the full 8.75 that they're asking for, but kind of taking an average, what do y'all think? 25%? The staff can give a 25% reduction in setback? And I think what this is going to lead into is maybe an ordinance amendment overall that gives administrative variance ability, not just for Windsong, but administrative variance procedures or ability citywide. I don't know why this has not come up before, but I kind of wish it had, so that we had that ability, so builders wouldn't have to apply for a variance and come before us when obviously there's a known hardship.
Just so you know, we are, or I am trying, but we had quite a bit going on lately. I've called other cities to see what they do in processes, and several cities, they have streamlined the process quite a bit. I found 2 cities so far that like on this sketch plan, preliminary, rezone, all that, it wouldn't even come to the planning commission until it's ready to go.
Yeah, that's,
Instead of going, you know, once our utility department, our engineers okay something for a zoning to work,
Yep.
and traffic studies, they would have to do all that. But it would streamline going through the planning commission and then the council, going back to the planning commission and the council, then going back to council. It's quite a intense
it's cumbersome.
paperwork.
It's cumbersome. It's cumbersome for staff. It's cumbersome for the developer and applicant. For the public, it's confusing.
Yes.
And that's something that I'd planned on asking for when you know, they ask what does the commission want to do for a budget year? Is Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager, an audit on our zoning ordinances and development regulations, subdivision regulations. There are some discrepancies between the two. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to go through and help clean those up, but also procedure steps. Barbara, I agree with you. From a professional standpoint, the sketch plan with the rezoning, while it's good to have a plan to see for rezoning, I think it requires a lot of information up front. A lot of information that a developer may not have hired an engineer to do some of that work because they don't know if they're going to get the zoning. I think for our standpoint, maybe we don't need to see a full sketch plan in its formation that we have now. Maybe it's just a concept layout of what's proposed, and we don't get as deep detail. And then the deeper detail comes with the preliminary plat, which is submitted to staff, is reviewed, and once staff says it meets all the requirements, it comes to us, and we're just basically there for some ceremonial purpose and say if it meets all the requirements of the ordinance, we don't need to go line by line and review it.
Right.
So that might be something that we look at doing with some amendments to our ordinance. But going back to the discussion of granting some administrative variance ability to Barbara, to the city manager, you know, maybe we look at that and say, at this point, until we nail down a definitive no more than in an ordinance.
Well, I think the 25%, so, I mean, that's a fair workable number relative to, you know, our normal setbacks.
Well,
I mean,
and I wouldn't disagree with you as a maximum, no more than 25. But remember,
that needs to look at it.
I agree with you, but there's that fine line, and this is where I'm going to put my employee hat on and look at it, that developers and builders build and develop to the minimum standards. Well, if they know they can get 25, then they're going to ask for it every time. So it's got to be in a situation where it makes sense. The minimum variance needed to get the reduction necessary.
Would it be possible to, you know, put some guidelines around it, saying, I mean, like in this particular situation where you've got that issue with the creek, I mean, could we not tie it in with, you know, hey, you know, the only reason you're asking for this is this. You know, it pushes it around in that lot. You know, if they're looking at it and they say, you know, this is more than just a generic,
Yep.
you know, request here. There's more moving parts in this thing than just having a rectangle lot or something that somebody's needing the variance on.
Yeah,
there's more to it in this.
Yep.
Than, you know,
Because there's a condition that's created the hardship, and that's the buffer and the topography.
but in that situation, I think that would, I mean, this is a good one that would say, hey, look, that 25% carte blanche doesn't fit here. You need to go before the city. But if they, or the commission, but if there's something, you know, they just want to move their shed, you know, 3 feet or whatever, I mean, or, you know, 2 feet.
Yeah.
That's something that maybe doesn't necessarily have to come to us.
Barbara, how do you feel about that? You deal with the public every day in our community. What would help? In your opinion, what would help in that situation?
I think the zoning, planning, and the city manager could have some administrative rights where we're going to look at it together most of the time anyway, and make sure that it does meet a hardship or topography of the land. You know, we had one over here on King Street. The guy didn't realize he was in the historic district, didn't realize he had to have a permit to get a shed. Well, of course, the only place he could set it was in the side yard, which we came before the historic. Then he had to get a variance, and, you know, he had his building ordered, almost paid for, fixing to delivered. And, you know, I went out there, I actually helped him measure, and we looked and took pictures, and it's like his plat is his house, and I'm assuming the ordinances okayed it back in the day. I don't know, it's like 8 feet off the property line. So he's got a driveway, and there's the building, but he did get the variance. HPC approved, you know, the look of the building, and some things would have to still go to HPC, but it slowed him down almost 4 months with all those processes before he could get his building in.
Okay.
So to me, that's a little
Excessive.
extreme.
Yeah.
That it doesn't need
That
to.
was earlier this year, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yes, it was.
I remember that, and it
Yeah.
was one of those situations, like, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry.
It's pretty
but-
cut and dry. I mean, he had a place to
Right.
put it, and it looked nice when he got done, and it's beside his house, but, you know, I think, I talked to the fire chief about, because I think sometimes, you know, he likes, when you're doing those accessory structures, there's a footage to be away from the house 10 feet,
10 feet,
and he met that. So he got his 10 feet, but he's right here on the property line. Now, it was more than 25% in his case, because he just, I mean, he's only a few feet.
Yeah.
Instead of 15, he's like 7 feet or something off the side, and, you know, so much off the rear. So it was more
Yeah.
than than the 25% would have allowed.
Okay.
But
I mean, you have your extreme cases. You know, not a one size fits all.
it's not, and that's why I'm saying if you put the 25% on there, long as we go by the ordinance, it can't go more down than the 50% that's already in the ordinance. You can kind of tweak that one
Yep.
to say it's the hardship that it might be, instead of 15, it might be 7 feet,
Yeah.
you know, 7.5 feet. Things like that, and I think we can use common sense where it's not gonna affect the safety and welfare of the citizens that it surrounds.
Sure. And there's the variance criteria for us to grant a variance. You would follow that same criteria when administering administrative variance.
Correct.
You know, on average, do you think most of the variances you see that people ask for, you think that's within 25%? You think it needs to be 30%?
I would say yes, we need to go at least the 30%.
Okay.
And mainly because, like I said, over the years, I've watched variances, and most people don't ask for something that's just totally unreasonable. You know, I mean, it's like I tell them, you can't ask for a variance just because you don't want to do it. It has to meet the requirements to start with. You just got to go through the process.
And this would be specific to setbacks? I mean, are we saying that this administrative issue, you know,
Right,
would
front,
be
front, side, and rear
specific
setbacks.
to setbacks? 'Cause I mean,
Setbacks.
obviously,
Mhm.
you know, just have carte blanche.
Anything,
Yeah.
right. And there's
Right.
there's no use variances, like you couldn't do in R15, you couldn't do
Right.
chicken houses.
Right.
So, like on the 55 acres, basically. But yeah, just like a 30% up to a maximum of 30% reduction in front, side, and rear setbacks. Is that
Right?
Adolphus?
Yes.
Fowler?
And this would have,
And they'd still, like, they couldn't just build it with a 30% variance. They
No.
would still have to.
Go through the
notify
process.
somebody that's what they
right,
needed to
right,
do.
right, yes, yes.
I mean, we
They'd have to
would
give
still
approval.
require.
They would apply.
Now, don't get me wrong, some
Submit
people
plans.
have put up sheds that we know nothing about until Monday morning, so that
I mean, are we
happens.
gonna expect them to still file the normal,
Yes.
go through the normal process?
It'd still
Okay.
be
Still file the paperwork
Okay.
a building
to,
permit application, a variance application.
and it would just be
Our roads
signed off
engineer would
by
approve
the,
it.
I just don't want that stuff to get lost either. so.
no, they would still file a variance. We'd make a new form where they would fill it out, why they're asking for it.
Justification.
And we would have to justify why we're actually signing off on it administratively.
Yeah. And just like, for example, if Barbara, you requested a setback variance and I had a similar situation and she approved yours and she denied mine, she wouldn't be arbitrary and capricious. I'd find out, hey, why did my neighbor get this and I didn't?
Sure.
Well, because he had 10 foot of fall and 3 foot of distance from his house, where you've got 3 foot of fall and 30 feet of your house. Your hardship is not like your neighbor's.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Well, if that's something that this body is comfortable with, granting the 30% maximum reduction in setbacks on an administrative review basis for Windsong, why don't we open that to a motion, and then as we move forward, and as I said, I hope to maybe have some discussions with the mayor and city manager about an audit with our ordinances to see where we can improve on cleaning up language and add that citywide. Thank you, Valerie. We got a second. Okay. Barbara, does that make sense?
Oh, I have a second.
Clear as mud.
All those, if you have any questions, ask Jay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, thank you. Motion passed unanimously. We have no other new business. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion, a second, at 7:30 PM. All those in favor? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.